Now, back here in Nigeria, tension has been rising in Rivers State as political parties race to beat the deadline for filing petitions against the outcome of the last general election. For some days now, the two major parties in the state, that's the People's Democratic Party and All Progressives Congress, have engaged in a war of attrition, with the theatre being the Port Harcourt office of the Independent National Electoral Commission because of a dispute over the inspection of materials deployed during the election. The state chapter of Accord Party is also complaining about difficulties in preparing its petition against the declared outcome of that governorship election. The party's candidate, that's Dumo Lulu Briggs, joins us now. Mr. Briggs, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Thank you for having me.
Now, can you tell us some more about the difficulties that you've been experiencing based on this situation?
Well, not quite. We've made up our minds to go to the tribunal to ensure that this shenanigan that took place on March the 18th would not stand. We have already filed a motion, before the tribunal, which will be held, either today or tomorrow, to grant us, permission to go and inspect all the material that we need. When we get that approval from the courts, I'm sure that we'll proceed to go and obtain all the material that we need. To this point, we have no difficulties and we are sure to meet the deadline.
Right. Now, the PDP have maintained a position that the inspection of these materials has to be a joint activity. What's your take on this?
Well, there's no provision of the Electoral Act that states that the PDP will have to join the SDP and the Accord and the APC to go and do a joint inspection. It's optional. If the PDP want to do an inspection, they are free to go and do an inspection. And that is why we have approached the court. So if we get the grant of the court to go do an inspection, we'll go and then try to do an inspection. If we are prevented at that point, then it becomes a matter of contempt of court. So we're not bothered about all of those things at all. I think that there's no need for us to unduly, overheat the polity. So we are playing very clearly by the rules. Once we get, the application, granted by the courts, we shall approach INEC, to do the inspection. And if they deny us access at that point, then of course we'll bring, contempt proceedings against them.
Thank you, Mr. Lulu Briggs. One thing that was highlighted by the APC candidate for Rivers State, that's Tonya Cole, was that he said he wasn't content with how INEC has handled this situation in terms of obtaining the certified true copies of the governorship elections. Just wondering what your experience has been interacting with INEC concerning your own challenges that you have based on the outcome of the elections.
Well, I think that basically, INEC is slow. Knowing that these actions, are time barred, I think that INEC would have increased, the level of their personnel to handle, all of these issues timeously. But INEC, I would say, has been, deliberately slow. We've made our applications, for certified true copies. We've not been able to obtain any, but, we still think that we'll be able to obtain certified true copies of all the documents that we require. But we just, had hoped that INEC would have, tried to expedite all of these processes just to enable parties, be within time. We put in our application since last week, and we're still hopeful, that we'll get it. So, yes, all the parties are encountering some level of difficulties, and I think that INEC, already, complicit in all of these routes that we're trying to, to correct, will not be in a hurry, to give us materials that will require to go and expose the shenanigan that took place in Rivers State.
Right, and I'm glad that you've highlighted that, of course, all parties are pursuing, their own ends and trying to achieve what they feel is justice from the just concluded electoral process. But what I'm finding from what you've said today is that your approach is profoundly different from that of the APC and Tonya Cole. Of course, we all witnessed the clash that took place 2 days ago. What do you make of what transpired on that day? Well,
frankly, we need to put things in proper perspective. it's somewhat, a clash of the godfathers. These are, godfathers and, and godsons in the electoral process. And each of them, is diametrically opposed to the other. So whatever the APC does, right, will elicit the worst of emotions from the PDP. Whatever the PDP does will elicit the worst of emotions, from the APC. And these two parties are, have contributed in no small measure, to the ruts that, that we're in right now here. So for me, I worry, and I think that what we're asking for is that these votes, that were allocated, right, just shouldn't stand. I mean, the rot was just too much. So there was no election, in Rivers, and this whole thing should be cancelled. Sometimes I'm at a loss at what the APC is even asking for. I mean, are they saying that this whole thing should be cancelled, which was the earlier position? Or are they saying that, well, that regardless of what, went on, as much as they're opposed to a lot of things that happened, that the votes could be looked in some way that the APC, might emerge as the winner. I don't think that should be the case. We can't approbate and reprobate. And that's why a lot of us are having, some difficulties. If your case is for outright cancellation, your approach will be different. If your case is to try to say that, oh, well, I just might find some opening, where this whole thing could result in an outcome that favors me. If that is the case, then, I'm clearly at a loss. I think that what we must all strive to do is to enthrone a good measure of decency in the electoral process, one that inspires hope. We have a lot of young population, young people, who are trying to get into this democratic space. And we must understand that there are more than 40% of registered voters. And that's a huge chunk of persons who we would disenfranchise if we don't encourage them, by carefully and very deliberate actions, to come on board. So for us in the Accord, I mean, we keep trying. This road has been on since 1999, but we keep trying because we believe that, our lives must be like the course of the sun. Even the darkest moments must bear the promise of daylight. So we're hopeful that, that people would listen. If you look at what happened, it's just sheer allocation of votes, everywhere. And nobody should try to claim credit in this sort of situation. If we are saying that it's not, the PDP that won, I mean, are we saying that it's the Accord that won? Or is the SDP that won? Or is the APC that won? We are saying clearly that what happened in Rivers State was just, a mere exercise, to appease certain persons. Election didn't take place. And nobody should try, to claim credit. And sometimes if your issue is slightly different, then your approach will be different. Our approach is quite calm, playing by the rules. And of course, because, all that we're saying is that nothing happened in Rivers State, and we must have some level of decency here. And if all of us in the opposition are saying the same thing, then of course, the arguments that may follow shall be slim and just. If on your program I mentioned the last time, that if we allow a reconciliation of reason, with truth, then the arguments that may follow shall be slim and just. So what we see here is everybody trying to be smart, and they're trying to see how they can, outsmart the other. So it's probably, furtherance of the clash of the godfathers that we have in the APC and the PDP that you see, playing out on the streets of Port Harcourt, heightening tensions, overheating the polity, causing a lot of fear, increasing the level of apathy and hate in the political system. That's not, the matter for the Accord at all. For us in the Accord, we are saying that we want to always play by the rules. We have to be mindful of the language that we employ because we do not seek to create irreconcilable differences. Ultimately, all of us are Rivers people. And that this process, must bet something that works for every Rivers man, every Rivers woman, and every Rivers child. It's not, something for anyone to try to take an opportunity of. So that's why we're not, at war with anybody. We'll go about our business decently. And when they come with one method, that we think is low, we look for another method that we think is even much higher. So we try at all times, to raise the standard. That is why they wouldn't like us at all, because, we speak truth to authority. So our politics is different, and we are relying purely on the strength, of the electorate to decide what obtains, in Rivers State and not, the might of any godfathers. So they wouldn't like us at all. But that's where, we stand. Both the APC and the PDP are complicit in the sort of level of crisis that we have found ourselves in Rivers State. So they will have to, take very deliberate steps to reduce, the tension and hate that they're introducing in our politics. It's not helping us at all. Rivers people are decent people You know, we love ourselves. We are very hospitable. Rivers State was a place for every other Nigerian who wanted a second home to come and find that home. You know, the garden city. We need to return this place, you know, to what it used to be, you know, prior to 1999. So every effort that I make is geared in that direction. You know, so sometimes when they say that, well, at every election you try to run, if at the end of the day what I achieve is the enthronement of decency in the electoral process, then I would have made a huge success in this whole thing. You know, so my message resonates, you know, with Rivers public, but the establishment, you know, wouldn't like me. If you take the example of Oyigbo that I spoke of the last time, you know, where the Accord had 67 votes, you know, and then the APC had 2 votes and the PDP had votes. What eventually was uploaded was 0 for Accord, 56 for PDP, and 26 for APC. So you see that in the sharing, right, that was carried out, we believe, by the PDP, they remember their brothers, the APC, and get them some votes. So, you know, these are like, you know, are like partners, and we're saying that we must have a system where everybody plays by the rules, so that ultimately the winner will have a lot of legitimacy to carry out the huge, you know, reforms, the huge programs that need to happen in Rivers State. With a 42.something% unemployment and 18% underemployment, the work is cut out for the next administration. We can't be in these sort of issues right now.
Indeed. Governorship candidate of the Accord Party for Rivers State, Mr. Dumo Lulu Briggs, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday. We appreciate your time and we wish you well in your